Welcome, you lazy wealthers, and do I have a treat for you today? Imagine if I said to you, I can bring a guest onto our small little podcast that is capable of 7x returns on your business if you were taking that to exit, or even if you were looking to just increase the profitability of your business so that you could do something wonderful with that money. Imagine there was such a person that existed who was the Jedi master of business coaches and was able to not only 7x your business, but also trains other coaches exactly how to follow that exact same methodology. Well, that person is real. And that person is the CEO of Tricress, and her name is Rebecca Bonington, and she joins us via Zoom right now. Rebecca, welcome to Lazy Wealth Creation.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you very much for having me here.
It's our absolute pleasure. We love talking to people who help business owners. So, if it's okay with you, I like getting down and dirty into the detail and finding out a little bit more. So, tell me, what is the business avatar that you help to 7x their multiplier? What type of business?
Yes, they're normally a small to medium-sized business, owner managed, sometimes in a family. And they're anything from about 2 million up to about 45, 50 million in revenues. They're keen, they're ambitious. They either want to scale to exit, or they simply want to grow something that's really sustainable and create a legacy of some description that they can either pass on to the next generation or sell to the next successors of leaders within their business. Yeah.
Wow. So you've said a word there that I love to hear, the word legacy. So what, in your opinion, would be a way to help a business owner in that sort of turnover bracket secure legacy for their future generations? Because I've got loads of audience members who are interested in legacy as well. So give us an example of what you might do. Don't give all your tricks away, but give us an example.
Okay, so if you think about the business, you've got to have a really good, strong senior management team. You've got to have the board, a really good, strong senior management team. Underpinning that, you've got to have a powerful, positive, identifiable culture that everybody knows what it is and can follow. So there's a purpose, vision, and values there. We help businesses create those or refine those. And then we work with the board and the senior management team to embed all the behaviors across the people, strategy, and revenue systems within the business. And that enables the business to scale and grow. It frees the business leader up and the board to work much more strategically and start planning for revenues the year after and the year after that, rather than wholly concentrating on revenues today. And the legacy you create is a stronger, more sustainable business with a set of people who are really capable either buying you out or stepping into your shoes. And even if you do a trade sale and they end up doing something else, you have prepared them for the world out there. And often we see our clients, when people leave the business or they move on and exit, the people that have worked with them move on to bigger and better things. So you create this wonderful, positive upward cycle. Plus you create wealth as you go along for you, your family, and the team you work with and the community around you. And that's the kind of legacy I'm talking about.
That sounds awesome. And you also mentioned something else there, the S word, systems.
Yes.
I'm all for systems. Tell me, what are we talking about systems for? What's going on there?
So if you don't have systems in your business, and Carl, I used to think systems in business was a dirty word years ago when I ran a recruitment business. And then I realized that if you don't have them, your business just falls over. So if you're building a skyscraper, the first thing you do is dig deep for the foundations. That's establishing your culture. The next thing you do is build the steel structure. Those are the systems. You hang everything else on the business on that steel structure, on those systems, and then it just works.
That sounds very similar to many people that talk to me all the time saying, have you got a system? And I just sort of go, yeah, system. Yeah, I've got one of them. Yeah, of course I have.
And if it's not written down, it doesn't count, Carl.
Yeah, I think it's on the back of a beer mat somewhere that I wrote one time that went into the wash and then disintegrated in the back of my jeans and ruined my socks, apparently. So you're a business coach who also teaches business coaches. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Spot on. Yes.
Okay. So what is the magic sauce from your point of view that sort of separates business coach A from the Jedi master business coaches B? What separates those individuals in your experience?
Well, first of all, I've been doing this a long time. So I've been a business coach, leadership coach since 2009. And before that, I ran my own recruitment business for 9 years and set up a couple of other businesses too. So that's one thing, breadth and depth of experience. The other thing is I've gone away and done a ton of learning. I have invested tens of thousands of pounds in my master's degree in coaching and my NLP training. I'm a licensed trainer of NLP, books, seminars, workshops, you name it. And the content I'm teaching our business coaches is a distillation of all of that, so that they don't have to go away and do the same stuff, because that's like 15-20 years worth of probably more worth of experience and learning that I've distilled into this program. So they get a shortcut into what works, what doesn't work. Obviously, I don't ever teach them anything that doesn't work. I've discarded that. And I guess what? I give them a system to work with so that they can set up from day one being a kick-ass culture coach and know what they're doing, know how to approach clients, and know what to deliver when they speak to clients.
So what I heard there, and it kept ringing through my head as you were talking, was your coaches are basically like the MMA fighters of the coaching world, because they got a little bit of this and they got a little bit of that, and they've got some wrestling, they got some karate, they got some judo, and then they got some kick-ass coaching as well. That sounds like an MMA fighter to me.
Yeah, and do you know why, Carl? Because I looked at quite a few different methodologies and there were always bits missing. And or they were too rigid, or they were too formulaic, or they only just tackled one thing in a business. And actually business owners, when they want a business coach, they want to talk to you about everything in their business. And when we go out to businesses and we talk to business owners who say, look, our stuff covers everything apart from finance and IT. And what we'll do is make sure you've got a good finance person in place who's sorting the numbers out, they're accurate and they're timely. Once we've got that sorted out and your IT systems work, then we can work on the rest. And that's a massive relief to business owners, because they don't have to go and see 6 different people about 6 different things. They've just got one business coach.
So that sounds to me like it's sort of an efficiency of scale, really, having access to just one person who can sort all of the things that I might not be an expert at. I mean, I'm certainly no numbers guy and I'm definitely not an IT guy. So that must save a lot of pressure or a lot of time from your senior leadership teams that you're supporting, or no? What do you think?
Yeah, so we're often there when we work with the owners or the founders or the board. It is a release of pressure. It's like, thank God I've got another brain thinking about this on my behalf. I just had a call with one of my clients this morning, and we're implementing strategy. Because eventually he wants to exit, and anybody coming to value his business will look at the bottom line, the P&L, and they'll go, okay, well, what have you got planned for the next 2 years? And how are you delivering on that? And where are you up to on that? And they'll ask questions. And at the moment, he's got nothing. It's all in his head or on that proverbial beer mat, and it's no use there. And I don't like the idea of doing this, but I absolutely know I have to do it. And I said, well, don't worry, because I'm going to talk you through it, and then I will write up the strategy for you and I will hold you accountable, so it happens without you having to make too much effort. think about it. And then he's like, thank God for that. That's great. So you just taking off stuff that they're not really interested in, to be honest. But you take away the pressure and then like, okay, I see the need for it. Let's crack on.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And you've mentioned another key word for me there. The word was accountability. How does that factor in? Because, when I've been an SME business owner in the past as well, and I might be really good at doing, fixing the grommet to the widget. And that's really what my focus is. I'm really good at that. And I've managed to do really well out of it. I've hired some people and they're really good at it now and I've helped them do it. But then somebody says to me, well, what's your turnover? What's your EBITDA? And I go, I don't know what you mean. What does that mean? What's your IT system about? And I'm like, why are you talking words that I don't understand? You're like an alien, right? So how is it, in your view, how do you help business owners become more accountable? What is it that you do there to help them?
I literally go, have you done that yet?
As straight talking as that. No nonsense.
I'm from Manchester, Cole. What do you expect? And it's like, I'm going to phone you in a couple of weeks to see how you're getting on, and then we'll have a chat and I'll help you and I'll support you. And then I'm going to see you a couple of weeks after that and we'll go through what you've done. And there's nothing quite like somebody turning up on your doorstep going, show me where you're up to, for you to crack on and get it done. And I do it in the nicest possible way. And sometimes, do you know what they've done? They've done some of it. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I know you're busy. That's okay. I will continue to hold you accountable and make sure it progresses in a way that doesn't snarl the business up. You can't drop everything. But it's a sensible pace. And I always say, look, we will go at your pace. That's fine. And they tell me what pace they want to go at. And as long as we get it done, I'm really relaxed about it. But it's that they know there's somebody going, you're all right. Have you got it done yet?
So it's almost like that, oh God, she's going to call me tomorrow. I better get it done now because I know she's going to be asking me tomorrow morning on that call. So I better go and get it done. Got it. So that's sort of like the business clients that you have. I just wanted to delve a little bit about, who's a perfect coach? I mean, in your world, if you're selling this, become a coach with my system. What's the perfect coach look like? Tell us.
Yeah, so they've got to be able to listen properly. They've got to leave their ego at the door, and they've got to be able to ask great questions. So those are three core foundational things. Thereafter, they've got to be really interested in people and business. I mean, properly interested and passionate about it. And that will probably have come from, I don't know, 10 to 15 years minimum in business of some kind. I don't mind whether they come from a corporate background, an SME background, they've built and exited their own thing. We get all those types coming in. But they've got to have that humility, patience, and ability to listen to be a really good coach.
Okay. So what university degree do I have to be a coach?
God, none.
None.
No.
But I've just spent 55,000 quid on my ballet and fine art business and business and got a 2-1. Surely that makes me the perfect coach.
No. No. Do you know, I'm going to tell you something interesting, Carl. I've just been doing a little bit of business development in business schools across the UK. And I've been looking at the heads of the business schools, the heads of the MBA. Not one of them that I came across has ever built their own business and exited it.
That's a really interesting point that you raised there, because in the circles that I operate in, we talk about this very regularly. We talk about the slow lane, the pavement, and we talk about the fast lane, which is, you can look on reference to this, MJ DeMarco. And many people who are in positions of power actually are still slow laning or pavement laning themselves into oblivion. So they're looking at getting wealth by the time they're 65, 80 years old. Because they invest in a pension, they invest in their savings because that's what they're told to do. But they've never actually ventured out and taken a risk.
Nope. Most people don't like it. It's really uncomfortable for them. We call it a leap of faith, hanging out in the unknown. And you and I are really good at that. I'm used to that. I've been doing it for donkey's years. It's kind of my natural state. Um, but the vast majority of people like the illusion, and it is an illusion of security in
Hmm.
inverted commas of
Yep.
the magic money that appears in their bank account once a month.
Yep.
And I call it magic money because you've not actually, unless you're in an SME, if you're in a corporate, you've not actually done anything to produce that money that appears in your bank account. You've worked, you've exchanged time, your labor for that cash, but you've not been at the sharp end of either generally making the product or selling the product or service. Very few have. I think when you step away from that, first of all, a lot of people don't think you can step away from it. They don't think there's a world beyond that. We know there is, and it's a happier, lovelier world to be in. Um, but then they just, am I allowed to swear, Carl?
Absolutely.
Okay, they're basically just shit scared
Yeah.
of losing the house and ending up in a sleeping bag in a doorway. That's their fear.
Where do you think that fear comes from? Because obviously, as a coach with an NLP background, neuro-linguistic programming for people who don't necessarily know what NLP is, you can go and have a look at that. There's a great books available. That fear factor, it's a very real experience for people. I want you to quit your £30,000 job, your £80,000, your £150,000 job. And I want to give you absolutely no guarantee whatsoever that you're going to make money in the next 12 months by betting on yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, how would you word that as an NLP practitioner to make somebody go, actually, yeah, that sounds great. I'll go ahead and do that now then. Is it a mindset or is it the way that we word it? What is it?
It is completely a mindset because we're only born with two fears. We're only born with the fear of being dropped and the fear of loud noises. That's it. Everything else we make up. So everything else is just in our heads. Okay.
Okay.
And it's not very often that people bet on themselves, Carl. Something, again, you and I, and probably a lot of listeners here, are used to doing. We are used to taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens in our lives, good and bad. Most people are not accustomed to doing that. They're accustomed to going, well, it's my boss, or it's the business, or it's the market, or it's I've not got this qualification, or I've not done this yet. It's always dependent on an external factor. When you start relying on yourself, truly relying on who you are as a human being, you realize that you create stuff from within yourself and you are ultimately an extremely creative being, and the only thing stopping you is yourself. That's it. It's just you getting in the way.
It's interesting you say that because when I lecture, talk, teach, educate, whatever the word is you prefer to hear, I talk about people living in rooms. And when people start from an employee perspective, they've got all these corners in the room that they can hide in.
Yeah.
And my goal is to shape their thinking so they're in a circular room, because now there's no more corners to hide, because ultimately you are both responsible and accountable for everything that happens. If you get cheated, it's because you made a bad business decision.
Yep.
If you didn't get that invoice on time, it's because you made a faux pas with choosing your clients. If, the presentation didn't go as well as you wanted it, maybe it's because you stayed up all night and you were out drinking. I don't know, but it's very easy to not take responsibility. And where I look to is local authorities and government. It's very easy to blame everybody else. And we've seen in recent months, the UK government has said, well, the last government left us with was it a £22 billion black hole? So it's not our fault we're going to do all of these things now. I mean, as an NLP practitioner, as a Jedi master coach, if you were in Keir Starmer's head and Rachel Reeves' head right now and you were in charge, what words of advice and guidance would you give them? What coaching would you give them if it were down to you today?
Well, I'd tell them to stop being socialists because there's no example anywhere on the planet where
Shh, we
socialism
don't do
works.
socialism on this channel. Shush, we don't use that word. Oh my goodness.
So, um, they do you know what I would my serious NLP question would be, I'm curious to know for what purpose you're doing this.
Okay.
To get to the heart of the matter, because it's not about any black holes. We know the Office of Budget Responsibility kind of makes stuff up, really, and they have ultimate choice about the policies that they introduce. And as we all know, there are tons of graphs to show them that the more you increase tax, the less tax revenue you actually bring in. I mean, again, there's history's littered with those graphs. Um, so it's not to fill the black hole, they're doing it because they're running on a manifesto of socialist policies. And I would be asking them, what do they think the ultimate outcome that they want to achieve is of those policies, and have they played the movie forward? Because I really don't think they have.
But surely, if there is a 22 billion pound black hole, and they're not going to raise taxes for working people, they've only raised taxes for business owners, which of course aren't working people at all.
That's hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what's the problem? Yeah, why are you all upset, all of you business owners who don't work? I'd love to be that business owner that doesn't work. I'd be very happy. I'd be very comfortable with that. Yeah, I don't mind paying my share because I don't work. It's fine.
Right. We just sit about watching Judge Judy all day, don't we? Yeah.
Who told you my secret? Have you been watching my telly?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting time to be alive, because I've never in the human history, I've never seen a policy that says tax people to the brink of bankruptcy and your country will prevail. I've never seen that before. It's never an experiment that I've seen being successful anywhere in the world.
Well, yeah, we've seen lots of examples of it being horrifically unsuccessful. You're quite right. It's never been successful. But I think when you're wedded to an ideology, and you're wedded to an ideology, isn't it? I mean, we're coming back to NLP here. Beliefs can be changed. And if a belief is strong enough, it becomes a core value. And I think that's where they're at, is that their beliefs are so strong that they have become core values, in which case it's an ideology. And you pursue that to the ends of the earth, no matter what. And again, we've seen a ton of examples of how that really doesn't work at all, whether it's communism or fascism, and two sides of the same coin, in my opinion. But yeah, it just doesn't work. I genuinely do not know what they hope to achieve. I mean, the farmers are in London today, and there are some people on X. I'm still on X. I haven't clutched my pearls and left. And some people saying, oh, the farm's valued at 11 million pounds. I feel really sorry for the farmers. It's like, are you thick? Are you literally that thick to realize that they don't have 11 million pounds in the bank? And that taxing that value means they've got to sell land to raise money for the tax, which means they have less land to farm and are able to produce less food.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, though, when you're used to working and engaging and supporting business owners and top teams, compared to people who don't necessarily have that experience, who are used to working at what I would call a hand-to-mouth type of employee who, does a job and gets paid on a Friday. The mindset is very different for an individual who is that employee versus the mindset of the business owner who's prepared to take risk, who's prepared to put their house on the line, get a mortgage, and pay down some debt to build a business from nothing very often.
Yeah.
Those two mindsets are very often at loggerheads because the employee says, well, you've made £1 million this year off the sweat of my labor. It's only equitable that you should give me, £80 an hour. You know what I mean? I just made that number up, of course. But how do you now bring that whole political climate, if you like, into the coaching of business owners who, I don't know, do they feel that this is a good change for them? Do they feel it's not a good change, in your opinion, based on the work that you're doing with business owners at the moment? Are they pro-Labour manifesto promise? Are they worried? I mean, what's the lay of the land from your point of view there with the business owners?
They're worried, and I'm going to give you an example of a business owner I met at the weekend. Family-run business. Her mum and dad run it, and they're the major shareholders. 3 siblings in the business. The mum and dad have said, if we die together, then, and they've done the calculation, then you will have to raise £800,000 in inheritance tax, which means you'll have to sell the business, which means that 13 people we employ will no longer be employed. That's a business that's been going for 120 years. And wow. She said to me, my mum and dad are now going to travel in separate cars because they don't want to risk that happening. Yeah. And we were going to take on an apprentice next year, but our national insurance payments have now gone up by £15,000, which is the money we were going to use to pay for an apprentice. So we're now not taking on an apprentice. That is repeated over and over and over and over and over again across the whole of the UK. Businesses everywhere are making decisions like that. It's going to lead to mass unemployment. We're already seeing a lot of redundancies in the corporate world. What usually follows after that is redundancies in the SME world. And yeah, it's just less wealth. These things just never work, ever.
So obviously we're the Lazy Wealth Creation podcast. What can we do to create wealth then in this climate? I mean, what can we do for our listeners who are not necessarily SME owners right now, but who are saying, well, are you saying it's better to be an employee and I just stick at my job? Or, what can I do to get out of this rat race? I mean, what would your advice be?
Yeah, well, now is definitely the time to go out on your own without a shadow of a doubt. So the good news is that the best opportunities usually occur in a downturn in the market. That's where you find the greatest opportunities. And there is always money in the system. There are always people with money. So all the businesses I've ever set up, I have set up during a recession. The last one I set up was 2009, after the worst recession we've ever had in 2008 when the banks crashed, okay? The question you ask yourself is, who's got the money? Where is the money sitting? And what do I have? What skills do I have or experience do I have that can tap into that market that's got money? It doesn't have to be a big market. I think this is a massive mistake people make. It's like, I've got to do this on a huge scale. No, you really, really don't. You have to find the money that's either in your sector or your geographical area or your area of expertise. Offer those people or those organizations something they need, all right? And then charge for it, and then you'll make money. You've got to tell lots of people about it, though. You can't hide.
I remember not so long ago there was some real desperate shortages of metals that we use in motor cars, and it was for batteries for electric vehicles.
Right.
So what happened was the second-hand market was really buoyant in cars, but the primary market, the brand new car vehicle purchase market, was actually in a slump. But the second-hand market was massively on the uptick. Yeah. And subsequently, what happened was there was lots of salvage yards and scrap yards that were reporting record profits. Yeah. Because as you're buying the second-hand cars, you need to buy the parts to go with it. And there are no new parts because none are being made because we haven't got the metal to make them. So these scrapyards were starting to make enormous amounts of profit on the back end of one particular crisis happening somewhere else down the stream. And when the recession happened in 2007 through to 2010, there was lots of people made opportunity by buying up real estate really cheap because lots of people foreclosed on their homes. And of course, the banks don't really like owning homes because they don't make any money from that. They like to own the debt on the homes instead. So lots of people were snapping up properties who were cash rich during the recession. So I have to say, I do agree with your assessment that there are huge opportunities right now in this country and worldwide globally for people to identify opportunities in the downward tick or the downward recession where people are going to lose their jobs and people are going to get innovative. And again, we saw this in COVID, didn't we? Where people started sending up their, people became digital nomads during COVID and TikTok exploded. And now we've got all these TikTok influencers. So I guess my point is people can be creative when they are forced to do so.
Yeah.
But going back to your point before about fear is what prevents people from doing things. But sometimes maybe necessity can be the nudge that they need. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, necessity is the mother of invention. And I once met the great Anita Roddick, founder of Body Shop, when she did a book signing in Edinburgh years and years and years ago. And that was the key of her talk was everything I did in my business was not designed. So she talked about the little plastic bottles, which if you're old enough, you'll remember as iconic in the Body Shop. And she said, the only reason I had those little plastic bottles is because that was all I could afford. That was it. So I had to have them, but they became iconic. So work with what you've got, start with where you're at. You can change it later, but just get started. I think a lot of people wait for perfectionism and go, it's not quite ready yet. Just go for it because your market will give you the feedback. They'll tell you the bits that they like and they don't like. And it's not personal, okay? You just, the analogy we use, we're running our businesses, we're going at 120 miles an hour and we're changing 3 tires at the same time. All right. That's what you have to do. You don't have the luxury of going, let's make sure it's totally perfect before we go out there. No, just go for it. And let me reassure everybody out there, everybody's making it up as they go along. Everybody. Nobody has it sauced. Okay. And you've got to duck and dive and be creative and think on your feet. And that's part of the excitement of it, actually, Carl. That's the bit I enjoy.
I think, I remember a long time ago working in the corporate sector and, this company's worth 3-4 billion now. At the time, they were heading towards $1 billion. So we're not talking about small potatoes. And very often they would say to me, Carl, we're bidding on this piece of work. How much do you think it's worth? And I would go, I don't really know. I'd have to do the calculations. Oh, no, just give us a ballpark. Or I go, okay, 500 grand. And the next thing you know, there's a presentation with 500 grand as the fee. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't cost for that. That's just like, that was just me thought, based on my 10 seconds that I had to figure it out. It might be worth far less than that. And they were like, yeah, we'll just go with it. And then very often what would happen is I'd go and do these presentations. We talk to the clients, some of them very large energy sector clients and energy like water and gas and electricity. And they'd say, oh, you're a little bit high on the price. Can you come down a bit? And we'd be like, yeah. And then we'd make it work backwards, and it was like, oh my God, we're just bloody winging it. But we've got this whole office full of people just pretty much winging it. Yeah. So your point is well taken that, just do it. But the other question I wanted to ask you based on this is, fear and resilience. Rejection is not a very nice experience. And we are taught from a very, very early age. Well, actually, I think we're taught at different things here. Just to backtrack slightly. When you're a little baby, you're congratulated when you try and you fail. When they're trying to walk for the first time, you go, well done. And everyone makes a fuss and you laugh and you get up and you try again. And eventually you start walking, of course, and everyone's congratulating you and that's wonderful. And then you go to school and you get stuff wrong. And then people shout at you all the time. And then you come home and you haven't cleaned your room and you haven't done the dishes and you haven't done your homework and you put a hole in your shoes and you're just getting shouted at for everything. So there's no sort of permission, if you like, to be creative and build resilience in this way because you've got to fit in the box. So how do you, from a business coaching perspective, how do you undo all of that education which has told you that 1 and 1 is 2, but also 4 minus 2 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. How do you teach people that all of these different things arrive at the same answer? How do you do that?
Well, you fail your way to success. It is what you do. You do something, and NLP is a great teacher of that. So you'll do something, it doesn't work, so do something else. And there's never one answer. There's a multitude of answers.
But doesn't that go against the grain though? Because obviously when I'm writing my maths paper at my GCSE, there's only one answer though, right?
Yeah, so when was the last time you used cosine, sine, and whatever the other one is?
Oh, that would have been my maths GCSE in 1998. I can't even add up the years. 1998.
So unless you're going to be a maths professor, you're never going to use it again.
Not for me.
No. And it's not really served you that well, has it?
I don't even know how to do the calculation anymore, to be quite honest. So I wouldn't know. I'd have to Google how to do it.
Yeah. There you go. If you want a definite answer to anything, just Google it. Okay.
Yeah.
There are no, I mean, if we're going to take this slightly wider, the biggest, brightest brains on our planet don't know what the mind is, right? They have no idea what the mind, they know what a brain is, but they don't know what a mind is. The biggest, brightest brains in our universe don't know what dark matter is. They haven't a clue, and about 80% of the universe is made up of dark matter. We actually know very little. We think we know loads. And you're right, school teaches you there is an answer. And yeah, if you pass in an exam, there is an answer. But beyond that, it's a complete and utter waste of time. You have to do what works for you, your circumstance, your family, your friends, in a way that suits you, which is any combination of all kinds of things. You might work part-time, you might have a side hustle, you might be self-employed, there's a whole different way of doing things. There is never one answer, and if what you're doing isn't working, change it.
So we talk all about side hustles here at Lazy Wealth because we think, or I think, it's my personal belief, that's the way that teaches you about business. Because it's okay to make mistakes, like you said. But what do you tell a person if you were to give someone advice, if they say, look, they go home and they go home to their partners, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, wherever that is at home, or maybe they're at home and they've just got the children or their parents. Say, actually, I've got this really good idea. I want to create this new invention, or I want to do this thing that's going to, maybe make me a little bit of money. And they go, don't be bloody stupid. What a stupid thing to do. Go and work in McDonald's and earn, £12 an hour instead. What an idiot thinking that you can go and do these sort of things. What do you say to a person like that who's sort of got this little motivation inside them to do something, but then saw all the people around them, their support mechanism, with love, because it's very often with love, they say, oh, no, don't do that. That's too risky. That's too dangerous. You can't do that. Just pay attention, go and work stacking shelves in Asda. What do you say to that individual if it were you and you were listening in on that conversation?
You're right. That advice usually is from a position of love. They don't want people to get hurt or fall over or whatever, and they want to keep them safe. Okay. It's usually from a position of love. My point there with those two people is to say, look, you're giving this advice. That's your model of the world. Those are your beliefs. That's your model of the world. This individual here has an idea, and that's their model of the world. You have to allow people to pursue things that resonate with them, that are true to them, no matter how crazy or unorthodox or obviously you don't take personal safety risks. And I mean unsafe, I mean, not in the traditional norm. You have to allow them to get on with it. Otherwise, they are living somebody else's life. You have to live your own life. I'm 54 now. I've lived a fantastic life completely on my own terms from the age of 36 after I realized I could run my own head. Took me a while. But unless you take that life into your own hands and decide what you want to do and what's right for you, you are literally living somebody else's life according to their rules. And
Right.
that's just misery making.
That's quite a powerful statement, that you're living your life by other people's rules. That's quite thought provoking for me. I quite like that.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I also have it on good authority that you have a book that is coming out at the end of 2024. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what it's about?
Yeah, it's called Building Businesses from the Inside Out. It's a complete guide to building your business by putting culture first. And it's out, I think it's like towards the end of December. So I'm going to do a book launch in January. It will be available on Amazon. It's being published by Routledge. So it's a proper published book. And in it, there are QR codes. You can access all our online courses at vastly reduced sums of money. So it's available to everybody. And there's all you talked about NLP books. I already have a book out called How to Outshine the Rest, which gives you tons of NLP stuff to accelerate your career and business as well. That's on Amazon. So 2 books.
Fantastic. I'm sure we're going to catch up again in the future based on our mutual love and understanding of being business owners and also helping business owners to grow, which is ultimately what we absolutely want, because we recognize here at Lazy Wealth that business is a huge positive in terms of creating wealth for yourself and for your legacy. So thank you so much for spending the time with us today, Rebecca. And I look forward to hearing from you again in the future, I am sure.
Amazing. Thanks, Carl. I've really enjoyed it.